Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. On this segment, this is what we're talking about here. Howie Roseman's vision and the moves that he's made, it's been on display all year for this Eagles roster, in particular during this playoff run, which has the Eagles one win away from their second Super Bowl appearance in 3 years. So on today's show, how the Eagles general manager has had his fingerprints all over this very special season. Before we dive in, a programming reminder, be sure to hit that subscribe button for daily and year-round coverage of the Birds, but also join us on Sunday for our Eagles Commanders watch party, the best place to experience an Eagles game day outside of being at the actual game, and we will be going live for a 90-minute pregame show. Our coverage begins at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Howie Roseman crushed this offseason for the Eagles, and we're going to run through just some of the moves that he's been able to make. This offseason, in the draft and in free agency, he signed Saquon Barkley to a 2-year, $26 million guaranteed contract. He's exceeded all expectations. He's become an Eagles legend in year one. And then in the draft, Howie Roseman drafted Quinyon Mitchell with the 22nd overall pick in the first round, and then they traded up for DeJean in the second round. They are both finalists for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Zack Baun, Howie signed him for north of $3 million. He's turned into an all-pro linebacker, and he's a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. Mekhi Becton, failed tackle? That's fine. Come to Philadelphia, Jeff Stoutland University. We'll turn you into one of the top right guards in football. The Eagles desperately needed some swagger, confidence, physicality, a ball hawk, and a leader back on that defense. They missed C.J. Gardner-Johnson last year. Howie brings him back. He's been a focal point on that back end for Vic Fangio. Howie restructured the contract of Josh Sweat. He goes out there, has 8 sacks this year. And then Howie and Nick Sirianni, Jeffrey Lurie as well, they hired Vic Fangio, who's a finalist for Assistant Coach of the Year. He's turned one of the worst defenses in the NFL last year into the best. And Kellen Moore, he's done so much better as a play designer, a play caller, as compared to Brian Johnson last year. And that's led to the Eagles being top 10 statistically in several offensive categories. What Howie did this offseason is going to go down as one of the best off seasons for a general manager ever. He hit on the draft. He hit on a lot of free agency signings. He hit on coaching hirings. And some of these free agency deals, outside of a player like Bryce Huff, they were very financially savvy as well. And then this year, the Eagles won 14 games, and they're in the NFC Championship game in large part to the player development that we have seen taking place. This is a credit to Nick Sirianni and his coaching staff, but Howie drafted these players. Jalen Carter, one of the most disruptive defensive players in the game, and he has perennial all-pro potential. Nolan Smith went from 1 sack last year to 6 sacks in the regular season to 3 sacks in 2 playoff games this year. Cam Jurgens, first year replacing Jason Kelce, a Hall of Famer, a Philadelphia icon, the best center of this generation across the entire NFL. Jurgens is going to the Pro Bowl in his first year as a starter at center. Nakobe Dean took that leap as an off-ball linebacker. Milton Williams is going to get paid in free agency, a really good rotational defensive tackle who can also play defensive end for Vic Fangio in that 3-4. We've seen flashes of Moro Ajomo. He's a part of the rotation along that defensive line. Reed Blankenship has turned into a big-time player on the back end at that safety spot. When Dallas Goedert was out, Grant Calcaterra rose up to the occasion. He performed very well. And how about Jalix Hunt? He's made some huge plays during this playoff run and in the regular season, sacking the quarterback against the run and making plays on special teams. There are even more examples, but the point here being is that Howie Roseman has drafted and signed and put together a loaded roster. And the Associated Press released their finalists for NFL honors. And look at this. Howie did all of it. Saquon Barkley is a finalist for NFL MVP and Offensive Player of the Year. Zack Baun for DPOY, as I noted. Quinyon Mitchell, DeJean, both finalist for Defensive Rookie of the Year. And then Vic Fangio, a finalist for Assistant Coach of the Year. Howie did it again. So with that, I pop up today's poll question. Is Howie Roseman the best general manager in the National Football League? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know down in the comment section right now. Coming up next, I want to run through all of those Howie moves and expand my thoughts on them. So continue to hang out here with us. But first, today's show made possible thanks to our friends at Game Time. If you want to go to the Eagles Commanders NFC Championship game, plenty of tickets available. Growing up as an Eagles fan, one of my fondest memories as a sports fan going to the 2004 NFC Championship game between the Eagles and the Falcons when the Eagles finally got over the hump after 3 straight NFC title game losses, and they beat Michael Vick and Atlanta in that game to punch their ticket to Super Bowl 39. I went with my dad. It was an incredible atmosphere. It had snowed in the days leading up to that, so there was some snow still at Lincoln Financial Field. If you want to be a part of an environment like that, download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. Thanks to Game Time Picks, you don't have to go through thousands of tickets. Game Time will filter out the fluff and allow you to find the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed to sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, and a whole lot more. So one more time, use that code CHATSPORTS, $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We run through these moves that Howie's been able to make. For Saquon Barkley, he rushes for more than 2,000 yards in the regular season. Bona fide MVP candidate. Changed the complexion of this Eagles offense. And if there were a year for a running back to finally win MVP for the first time since, I believe, Adrian Peterson about a decade ago, it's this year. Saquon Barkley, straight up incredible. And in the playoffs, that momentum is carried. 25 carries for a $119 against the Green Bay Packers and then against the Rams in the snow. Shades of Shady McCoy, 26 totes, 205, averaged 7.9 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, a long of 78. In 2 games against the Rams this year, Saquon rushed for more than 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he had 4 tutties of 60-plus yards. As for Quinyon Mitchell, the Eagles' first-round pick, Quinyon Mitchell turned into a lockdown guy on the outside, a big reason why this Eagles defense was able to turn it around. Overall PFF grade of 73.1, 32nd among 223 corners, a coverage grade of 74, but he was 11th in pass breakups with 9, 13th in passes defended with 14th, at 14. He had 13 passes defended, I should say, that ranked 14th among all corners. Yeah, we're back on track, baby. We're flying like the birds. And his instincts, his ability to make plays on the football is what makes him special. I think he's only going to continue to get better. Fluid hips, good feet, good back pedal, can make breaks on the ball, really good speed, and that feel. Those instincts, really special qualities at the cornerback position. Cooper DeJean, remember how he missed all of training camp and then came back for that final preseason game? And then early in the year, he didn't play at all? Well, he got his first start coming out of the bye week. The Eagles' defense prior to that had really struggled. Then they became the number 1 defense. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they became the number 1 defense once Cooper DeJean became a starter for this team out of the slot. He could play the run. He can play the pass. He's good on 4th downs, good on 3rd down. He has speed, explosiveness, physicality. He can guard multiple positions. He's always around the ball. He, too, looks to be a player, and he's been a pretty good punt returner as well. Zack Baun is one of the more incredible stories that I can remember. The Eagles signed him for a little north of $3 million. He had not played off-ball linebacker as a coverage guy before with the New Orleans Saints. Howie identifies him as a player who can do that. Vic Fangio did as well, and they turned him into an all-pro and a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. 151 tackles, led the team, 3.5 sacks, used as a blitzer, and you can see those pass rush skills, 11 TFLs, 5 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery in the regular season, had another one against the Rams on that strip sack from Nolan Smith. Mekhi Becton, another wonderful player developmental story and a great identification of somebody who could become something who another team looked at as a cast-off. The Eagles signed Mekhi Becton for a little more than $2 million. He was a failed offensive tackle. They put him at right guard, hasn't looked back, and he's massive at that position, at that size of 6'7", 363 pounds. The first Saquon Barkley touchdown run against the Rams, look at what Mekhi Becton did. Got to that second level, opened up a huge hole, blouses. Saquon to the paint. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, 59 tackles this year, 6 picks, 12 pass breakups. A wonderful season for him. The Eagles and him able to get over a sour ending. They realized they needed that personality back. They needed that swagger. They needed that ball-hawking safety, a leader and a captain for this entire Eagles team. Josh Sweat, Howie Roseman restructured his contract. They barely paid him any money, and he gave them 8 sacks this season. Jalen Carter, look, he lasted until number 9 in the 2023 draft. Some character concerns, legal concerns, led by Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. They knew they could take a chance on this player because they had some great captains and leaders inside that locker room. From Lane Johnson to Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Darius Slay, and Jalen Hurts, they knew they could take on a player like this who maybe in the beginning was a little bit high maintenance, maybe came to Philadelphia with some questions. If he got drafted number 1 by the Bears, probably would have run into some issues because they have no stability within that organization. He comes to Philadelphia, he has become a bona fide superstar. Nolan Smith, 6.5 sacks in the regular season, 3 more in the first 2 playoff games for the Eagles. Twitch, bend, explosiveness, a relentless pursuit, always trying to find the ball carrier and the quarterback, plays the game the right way, and him and Jalen Carter caused destruction against that Rams offense this past Sunday. Cam Jurgens replaces Jason Kelce. That's like replacing Derek Jeter as the shortstop of the New York Yankees. First year as a starting center, Pro Bowler, one of the best in the game. Nakobe Dean finally had that breakout performance. First 2 years, up and down, looked a little bit small, dealt with some injuries. He's a player. It sucks that he suffered that injury, but not before he had 128 tackles in the regular season. 3 sacks, 9 TFLs, good coverage guy, good against the run. Vic Fangio, what can you say about him? One of the worst defenses in football a year ago to the number 1 overall defense in the sport. He has been a wizard this year. And Kellen Moore, he adapted his play calling and his offense to the Eagles' personnel. He has been known as a pass-happy OC. Well, the Eagles this year have a 2,000-yard rusher in Saquon Barkley, best offensive line in football, and they were top 10 in multiple offensive categories. And Jalen Hurts combined regular season playoffs for 35 total touchdowns, 5 picks, and he got the quarterback back on track as well. A.J. Brown, an all-pro level player, had more than 1,000 yards, and Kellen Moore did a whale of a job this season as well. Be sure to give me a follow on X and Instagram, by the way, in addition to all of the long-form content that I do here on YouTube talking about the Birds. I'm always talking Eagles on my social media pages as well.